Welcome to the Health and Wealth Power Hour, the podcast that provides you with the knowledge and insights you need to achieve physical, mental, and financial well-being. I'm your host, Harlon Pickett, a business consultant who's passionate about helping people achieve a more balanced and healthier life. Each week, we'll deep dive into topics related to health and wealth, including retirement income planning, innovative healthcare solutions, alternative funded health plans, and specific actions individuals and business owners can take to gain control of their finances, have access to affordable quality health care, and achieve peace of mind. We'll also be joined by innovative experts who will share their knowledge and insights on prevalent topics. So, whether you're looking to grow your wealth or improve your health, you've come to the right place. Get ready to be informed, inspired, and empowered. Let's get started. All righty, gang. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Health and Wealth Power Hour. We are super excited to have you here today. Let's go walking. Let's not just go walking. Let's go walking outside. The great outdoors. What in the world does this have to do with anything? Well, let me tell you, it's interesting that we take for granted so many things that we can do, like go outside, like walk outside, like enjoy the outdoors. Many of us are able to do that fairly simply. I know a lot of people that do even extremer type stuff, like a little bit of mountain biking and rock climbing, hiking up some pretty major trails here or there. But can you imagine what it's like for someone that is disabled, or for someone that has some type of disability that may prevent them from doing anything but some of the easiest trails around? And how do you find those? How do you even find a place where you can enjoy nature? I think that's a very difficult thing. And I guess I never really thought about it too much. But when I was kind of introduced to Marjorie Turner Holman, it was an interesting concept to me to think about someone who had to overcome those, who loved the outdoors so much that they wanted to make sure other people that were in that situation would not have to be without that joy in their lives, the joy of the outdoors. So she made it her mission to find places where you can enjoy the outdoors, took a lot of the work off of you, and has been extremely successful in that, writing a number of books that also provide that information. We are super honored, and it is such a pleasure to have you on the show today, Marjorie. Thank you so much for joining the Health and Wealth Power Hour.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Thank you so much. It's a real privilege, and I look forward to our conversation.
So the first thing I think we have to get into is everyone has a story of why something became their passion. And I think once folks listen to this for just a few minutes here, they're going to realize it is truly your passion. And it doesn't always have to be yourself that was the one that was in a situation, right? People's passion become a lot of times because of loved ones, because of someone they know, because of a situation that developed. But in your case, it was you. It was very unexpected. It was life-altering, but it also gave you a mission that you've spent the rest of your life pursuing. So tell us a little bit about that journey.
Sure. Let's see. The basic facts of where I am is that I was a single mother, taking care of my kids, cleaning houses, doing what I needed to do to take care of them. And I was in my 30s and found myself in the middle of a grand mal seizure that figured out very quickly I had a brain tumor that needed surgery to save my life. There's no place you go but get help there. And to everyone's surprise, specifically me, but everyone else, when I woke up from the successful surgery that didn't kill me, but was pretty bad, I was unable to move my entire right side, was completely paralyzed. very quickly I figured out this was not going to get fixed right away. And through that time, I was not able to work. I found out all the ways the social safety net exists for people like me and others. And all I could do was write, which I'd always avoided like the plague. Uh, it took me in a journey of learning to write, learning to ask the question you asked right away is why. That always gets people started because we all have a why of where we are now. And so the why for me was I couldn't do anything else. And so I got over that fear of writing. I found mentors that were helpful. We had email at that time that made it so I could write and share, basically just email stories to people. And I got feedback, like you were talking about earlier, got feedback that people wanted more. And that was the encouragement I had. I wrote for newspapers for bunches of years and happened to write this one series of articles that was naturally New England. I'm located in the New England area. And I just went to trails, but because of the lack of mobility that I still have, I am able to walk. I use hiking poles to keep my balance. But I just went out to places that I could do and wrote about them, and people were really interested. So I kept going. I didn't really have a focus at that time that it was focused to help people with disabilities. It was just an idea, but the doors kept opening and people kept responding. I put those newspaper articles on my website, and by the 500th time, somebody came and said, "Hey, where's Joe's Rock?" And I said, okay. Dawn came to Marblehead, as people say. And I said, I think there's a need there. And I started writing. Again, I wasn't really focused on disability. I was kind of, I liked to pass as normal as often as I could. It wasn't something I was putting out there. But as I kept doing this and kept getting stronger responses and more interest, and the doors kept opening, it became more and more essential that I explain the why. And so it's become more of my story. And as I've been more open about that, people have actually responded stronger than if it was just, don't you want to get outside and have fun? And here's some nice places to go. It became more focused of, hey, you who just got injured, would you like some help so that you can get outside safely, even though you've hopefully temporarily lost the ability to get out on mountains and other such? Are you older and can't do as much as you used to do? Or do you have mobility challenges that have been there for a long time? Or you're a parent with children in strollers and you still want to get out even though you're young, but your little ones need that support. Those are my target audiences for my books, not the people that are going on outward bound and wilderness hikes. And but there's a lot of us that just want to get out and be safe doing it and enjoy what we're able to.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that's obviously something I didn't even think about. You have families that are in certain situations, right? You have a family that maybe the mom and dad do like to hike, but now what are you going to do with this stroller? Well, I guess you can strap it on your back, but good luck with that. That's going to be fun, right? So all of a sudden you need a different type of terrain.
Right.
It,
What I've
it,
noticed with a lot of hiking books is they tell you it's easy or it's moderate or it's difficult, and they don't provide anything. What's that trail surface actually like? So I finally, after all sorts of presentations, have learned to say easy walks, which is basically my brand, is not too many roots or rocks, relatively level with firm footing and something of interest along the way. That's it. And it gets overlooked because people are focused on, well, it must be short, so that makes it easy. Length is all you, that's so individual. What's your stamina? But those trail surfaces, and whether it's really steep or whether it's relatively level, doesn't have to be completely flat. But tell me what the surfaces are like. Tell me what that's going to do that will affect whether I can actually do this or not.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you brought that up. I was talking to someone a couple of weeks ago about easy, right? Let's talk about what easy is. One person's definition of easy or beginner. I think they're in their case it was beginner. So if it's beginner, we just assume it's going to be easy. And the conversation was actually about ski slopes, about skiing. And they
Mhm,
said, the funniest thing about skiing is in different places, beginner or green slopes are different. Like some of them at one place will be almost like little bunny kid hills. And in other place, they'll almost be equivalent to what would be intermediate or blues, but they're
mhm,
all in this same realm.
right.
And I thought that was very interesting. So it just made me think about what you're saying. Some of these trails, and I've seen this and I've actually experienced this, that say that they're easy. There's going to be no problem there. The terrain is not. It's maybe up and down. It may be a very thin trail.
Mhm,
If someone's
mhm,
trying to use help, like you're talking about with these hiking poles, where do those go then?
mhm.
How are you using those whenever this is carved out and maybe you've got a foot deep trail that you're walking through that's just barely wide enough for you to go? How are you going to get those poles in there to help guide yourself along?
Right. You made a really important point when you talked about beginners, because just because you say beginners, meaning you're just starting out, so you need support. I'm a very experienced walker. And if you referred to me as a beginner because I'm using hiking poles, because I have mobility, I won't say I'm offended, but it's not accurate.
Right.
And there's lots of people who have a whole lot of experience and they need some support. That doesn't make a beginner. A beginner is somebody who hasn't done this and doesn't have the skills to be able to manage what a more experienced person is. I have plenty of skills.
Yeah. Well,
So you
so
have to be
let's
careful.
talk about that because the skills that you have and the ability that you have at 40 is not the same as it is at 50. It kind of maybe still is, but not all the way there, right? But then at 60, and I saw someone's comment on your Facebook page where they were saying, "Hey, I'm going to be retiring soon, and I'm thinking of hiking more, but
Mhm,
I'm also a little more concerned about." The trails that I don't know that I want on those same trails anymore. And
mhm,
you were able to then provide them some of this information of here's trails and here's what all the way down, like you're talking about the surface. Here's what
mhm,
you would be walking on. Here's the different things. It goes beyond just that beginner, easy, intermediate, advanced, expert
right.
because that is so there is no real definition of that, right? There just isn't because it's
It's,
all up to
yeah,
someone's just idea of what it is. And there's no way that it's going to be the same with anybody. Whereas you get in such details that there's no doubt about what that trail is going to be like.
right. I try. And when I have people who contribute to my Facebook group, I say, this is not just pretty pictures. This is something people use. The group is searchable. If you want to find something, we don't just limit it to New England. It's mostly New England, but there's many beyond there. Or if you wanted to contribute to it, we're open to that. But tell us what's there and make it so that you're helpful to somebody else. We're not just entertainment. It's something that we're trying to give back to be useful and that people can have some joy in what they're doing. And I've been told that many times how grateful people are. I can't do it all myself. And that's what's really wonderful too, is that people come in and say, oh, I've got something to give. Because in honesty, all of us have something to give.
Yeah,
Little
absolutely.
things, bigger things, we all have something to offer.
So I want to review once again what an easy walk is by the definition. that you use, and that is not too many roots or rocks, relatively level, with something of interest along the way. All right, that caught me. The other of that's pretty clear, right?
Mhm,
Give me some examples of what not just you, but what others have submitted to you that
mhm,
said, I found this interesting, especially something that's a little quirky, right? Give me something
mhm.
that maybe someone came up with, like, hey, did you even know this existed? This is kind of
Right,
cool. When you get to right here, you can see fill in the blank for me.
right. I can also, I'm not a city person, so I am
Okay.
kind of out in the country, even though I'm near Boston. So I like wooded trails. I like trails along water. In New England, we have lots of water. We're very, very lucky. And there are a lot of trails that are either next to a river or next to go around a pond. Right where I live is not terribly mountainous at all. So there's a few places that are overlooks that you can see into a river valley. That's wonderful. Something I just wrote about recently was about ruins, which are, you think of Greek and Roman ruins. And I read a book recently about ruins in New England, and it really got me thinking, what does that count as? And in fact, when we see things that now I see as ruins, they're man-made but abandoned. So things like the prototypical New England stone walls. They used to be walls around property. They used to keep animals in for fences. They marked roads, so if it was snowy, you didn't get off. You could tell where the road was by the stone walls. But there's also, we had lots and lots of mills along streams.
Yeah.
And what, I mean, energy has always been a human problem, whether we've got fire or horsepower or water power, these little, even these little streams, you're going to find stacks of rocks that were dams that have now just gotten mostly washed away. They've been abandoned. That all fits into ruins. So where are there things, whether you're in Texas, whether it's old fence posts that said, okay, that was ranch land, but it's been abandoned. Wood is not going to last as long. We have an awful lot of rocks in New England, but or bridge abutments. They moved the bridge and they left those old stones that were there. The more you understand, okay, we've got ruins all over the countryside. And once you put that name to it, you say these are human interactions with the land that have either outgrown their use or been forgotten or people left. In New England, people headed out to where there was easier places to farm, and they abandoned all really marginal rocky farms, and they grew up into woods. So you see these stone walls going through woodland. There was no woods. Those were open fields. And people say, why did they build walls through woodland? Because it wasn't woodland.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
see those as ruins. Those are, they don't serve the same purpose, but they're still there. And it's fun to see them with new eyes. Those are the kinds of things that I find very interesting. They're not, world class or anything. They're just kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. Yeah. It's I think that even whenever I'm driving and I see, there's just a chimney left of
Mm-hmm.
something, and you can, sometimes you can tell, hey, it didn't burn down. It's just gone, right? That's chimneys,
Right,
all that's left of whatever that structure was at one
right.
time. Maybe you can see a little bit of a foundation, or a
Mm-hmm.
barn that you can say,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how old that barn is. It's kind of collapsed now, but
Yep.
at some point, when was that brand new, right? When was that brand new and being fully in use?
Yep.
That's kind of some cool things to
And
think
what
about.
did
So
it take to build it?
to build
And
it.
how did it serve? And what made it so it no longer served its purpose?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. What
it's fun.
happened? Right. What
Yeah.
happened to make it fall into disrepair, especially when you don't see anything else that's around there? I
Mhm.
think that can be very interesting. It's kind of easy when you see the one that's fell down, and then kind of behind the new house, you see this giant big one. You're like, well, I know what happened there, right? It was replaced.
Mhm.
But whenever it's the only thing there, in particular, I think that's a very interesting way to look at it. That's
It
cool. I
makes
like
you
that.
think. It
Yeah,
makes
it
you
does. It
think.
makes you think.
Mhm.
So you've dealt, I'm sure, with a lot of folks that have been in various different situations, whether it was similar to you, where they may have had a life altering incident as far as an illness or
Mhm.
a surgery, maybe, or even an accident, or maybe it's just something they've always dealt with their entire life. What have you seen, tales that you have heard, interactions that you have been a part of, that these easy walks, the accessibility that they give, have had impacts in people's recovery or accessing their joy that maybe they had kind of
Mhm.
left behind because they didn't know how to get back outside?
I've been really lucky to work with several people who have become friends who are visually impaired. And you would think, okay, you can't see, what are you going to get out of being outdoors and how would you do that? I've met both of the people that I have in mind right now on the trail. And yes, they had somebody with them, but they perceived the outdoors in very different ways. There's, yes, they could have some limited sight, but sounds of nature are important. Rushing water adds to interest, even just the feel of the wind on your face. And then walking and talking on a trail is very socially helpful. This one, I was thinking this one person, but the other person, he and his wife go out almost daily hiking since the pandemic. It really got them started, but they were going daily. They're in my Facebook group, and I saw what they were doing, and I said, would you be willing to work with me to write another Easy Walks book? Because it's hard work to get out and do all that field work. You really do have to go out and walk the trail to see what's there. And they were willing. So the wife described to me how she walks a step or two in front of her husband. He has some limited vision, but she'll say, somebody's coming, so he can step off. And, or here's a rock, or she'll just say, we need to stop for just a minute, or we're stepping up onto a bridge. And they did all of the field work for 50 plus trails that were in my latest book, that it's about an hour away from where I am. I try to do very local, town to town to town. So you can say, what's in the next town or what's around the corner from where I live, and not have to say, I've got to go all over the state to see what's in this book. They're very, again, because this is New England, we're pretty densely populated. The towns are relatively small, but at this point, with their help, I've covered 53 separate towns that are central Massachusetts, almost over to the coast. It's and about 180 different destinations. So working with Dave and why am I blanking out right now? His Dave Doré is the one who's blind, and his wife, and they just kept saying, this is so much fun. And it kind of gave them a quest to work with me. And it was just a real privilege. I've just done one in Milwaukee with people that I met, and they said, we want to do this with you. That was city. And so these are a lot of still parks and such, but they said, we want to see if we can get to every single one of these destinations without using a car. And they did. They
Huh.
used buses, they rode bikes, they walked, they got to all 50 of these different locations without using a car.
Wow.
And they
And
and
that
they
brings a
also
whole right. That brings a whole
they
new thing into it, a whole new
it
element into
it
this part.
yeah, And they also said, I look at these places differently. I brought my father here, and I realized this was a good place for him. I wouldn't have ever noticed. And that's the helping us to look with new eyes. I feel like that's the overall picture of art, is helping people see something with new eyes. It's incredibly broad, but what I differentiate with. Is it hard? Is it art or is it functional? But can you see things the way you never saw them before?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is yes.
I would
Right?
agree.
Because it depends on the person, right? And I think for some people it's
Mhm.
both still, but
Sure.
just my next question was going to be who has this kind of situation helped that we would have never thought it would help? Well, you already answered that. I mean, someone who has impaired sight, as soon as you said that, I started thinking through that, and it's like, well, of course it would. Of
Mhm.
course it would. The feel of the sun on their face, the wind in
Mhm.
their hair, the sound of
Mhm.
all those things. You know, I think about, I'm a hunter, and more than hunt, more than killing stuff is the sitting out there in nature.
Yep.
That's actually what I enjoy. My son thinks I'm nuts. He says, because you never shoot anything, Dad. Why do you even go? I said, well, I mean, I shot them when I was younger, but now I just like out there listening to them. I like
Mhm.
listening to the world come off. I'm sitting out there in the pitch dark, and these sounds that used to scare me when I was a kid out there in the dark, now I sit there trying to figure out what is that?
Mhm.
Or if I know it these days what that is, it's awesome. That horrifying sound in the woods of that owl is
Mhm.
now one of the coolest sounds ever,
It
as he's
is.
out there finishing his night and letting
Mhm.
you know that he's
Mhm.
there. It's awesome. Those
Even
sounds.
just bringing up the birds. This is kind of a side
Yeah,
one, but there's a free app through the Cornell School of Ornithology called Merlin, and you can put it on your phone. And when you hear birds, you can open that app and press a recording, and it will start recording and tell you what birds you're listening
that's
to.
awesome.
It is one of the coolest things that I have ever come across, because I'm not a good oral listener. Oral, AUR, but I can listen to that, and it helps train me a little bit, but I can just pull that up and I say, oh, that's what that is. So you could hear that owl. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be dark or light. And it could tell you exactly what owl you're listening to. It's
Yeah,
just fun.
yeah. I think what's funny about that is I do think about when I was a kid, and that sound like, what is that? That's something, something's coming to get me, right? It's something bad. I don't know what that is. But now it's not that there's still not some weird noises out there that you don't know what the heck they are. But you know what that usually is what you just said. It's a bird. It's usually a
Mhm.
bird making some kind of crazy noise. So if I had my app out there, I'd know that, oh, look, it's the, yellow-bellied sapsucker or whatever it is. It's not
Right.
actually something. It's not a chupacabra coming to get me, right?
Exactly. Exactly. You've just been to Puerto Rico, and that's the chupacabra. Mhm.
Uh, so you talked a little bit about, so you had some folks reach out to you from Wisconsin, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Where else? So I know you're mostly in New England. Where are some other areas that folks have reached out from that there may be a few of the easy walks available?
Oh, I think, well, I have some people that say this spring they would like to do one in Detroit, of all places. And they said
Huh.
Detroit has tons of city parks, and it's also right along a river. Milwaukee has three rivers and it's got some waterfront, but Detroit also has Great Lakes frontage. And so I got two people that are willing to partner with that. So I'm waiting for it to be a little warmer in Detroit and then see
Yeah.
if they want to get started. I'm open to talking to people from wherever they are, and I've got a template. So I basically say, here's what you need to fill out for wherever you are. I'll put it all into the book form. You do the groundwork and we'll figure it out. But having that template has made a big difference because people basically it's fill in the blank and take some pictures and I'll turn it into a book. It's fun.
Awesome. So you have, how many books do you have out now?
Um, there are, it depends on how you count them. There are 4 trail guides. No, let's see,
Okay.
five trail guides, including Milwaukee. There's another one that's called Finding Easy Walks, which is How Did I Do This? Another one
Okay.
is my backstory, my why, my liturgy of easy walks, reclaiming hope in a world turned upside down. And those are essays that I've written over years and years of healing and struggling with what do you do with a changed life. And I'm just, they started out as emails, and I've crafted them into short essays that some people have said have found really helpful.
So one of the Easy Walk books, someone has decided, you know what, this sounds awesome. I think I'm ready to make this change. I really didn't know that that was out there. What kind of information can they expect to find in that book?
Sure, it's a really good question. I try very hard to make sure we have an address, a name, the name of the place, what the parking is like, if there's parking, and then what the trail surface is like. Are there bathrooms? Most of the time not, but it's nice to know if there are. Are there benches? If I need to go or I want to go a ways, is there a place to rest along the way? Is there any cost to going there? And I try to stay free or low cost. If it's a place like a zoo that's going to charge a substantial admission, they've got their own business model. I don't really need to support that. So these are places that people might not think of. And then I try to write a little description, color. What do you expect to see there? What's quirky or interesting there that would say, oh, I like that. The other thing I tried very hard is to find out whether dogs are welcome. A lot of people who are dog walkers are looking for someplace new to go. A lot of people who are dog walkers use these books.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And there's, because the dog park's cool. If your dog likes a dog park. And I'm being honest here. My dog does not like a dog park at all, but he loves a trail. He loves a trail. That's where he wants to be. He doesn't want to be around a whole bunch of other dogs. That's not his place. That's not where he wants to be. But he loves to be outdoors and he loves to be out on the trails. So I can see that. Whereas I'm looking in the dog park and there's a whole bunch of dogs that are happy to be out there and a whole bunch of people to be out there. But I myself would actually rather just be on the trail with my dog instead of
Yeah.
sitting there with all the dog parents while their dogs frolic around and do stuff.
Well, there are places
there's
that
folks
won't welcome them. There are, and that's where if you go expecting and then you find
yes,
the no dogs, that's
right.
pretty disappointing too. So I try to give that information so that you can make your plans. And I also say, have a plan B. During the pandemic, places were so crowded, you couldn't get onto a trail. But when I found that, I had other places quite nearby, and we were still able to get outside, which was a good thing.
So do you have any, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. The local high school track is not going to be, while it may be an easy walk, That is not what we need to. I'm guessing that that's not what you want in your book, right? You're not. Here's the directions to the local high school stadium, and you go to gate E, and it's always open, and you go and you can walk in an oval as many times as you would like. It's some really interesting artifacts. There's the goalpost right there. If you remember last year's team, they didn't score any points, so that goalpost wasn't used. It is clearly an artifact from a gone by time, possibly even a ruin. All right, so that's not what you're looking for. That's that. While that may be an interesting little fun thing to do, that's not what we're after.
You were
So, do you
working pretty
have?
hard.
So, I know that you have this template, but as an idea, what do you recommend someone if someone's interested? And they're like, I go on this walk, but maybe it's too basic, or maybe it's not, or maybe this would be great to get on and join in. They live in Arizona. They're completely way away from wherever you are, but they're listening to this. They're like, this would be awesome. I would love to put my walk on there.
Mhm.
What We don't want anyone to not put it out there because they don't think it's cool enough, but we also don't want the high school stadium, I'm thinking.
Yeah. I mostly am in Arizona, you got a lot of desert, but I've been to Arizona and there's some very cool places that are
Yeah.
parks that take you up that are actually what I would call developed trails because they're footpaths that are broad
Right.
enough so that two people can walk. They may have interpretive signs. The point is not exercise. That's a side benefit, but the point is to restore your spirits or just to get you observing, paying more attention to where you are. And going around and round and round in a circle is absolutely valid. And it can be really boring. And when you start paying attention to what's around and almost any place could be. I'm not real inclined to sidewalks. Um, in more urban areas, sidewalks can actually be quite treacherous. Roots of trees can tip them up.
Yep.
They're not actually for me the ideal place. They're you think they're flat and they're not always. So I mostly are looking at wooded or just outdoor parks. I like trees for some shade. I'm not able to sweat with the health challenges that I have, so I get very overheated in the summer. Texas would not be a good place for me.
Yeah, maybe about 3 or 4 months out of the year would be okay. But
Right,
other than that, yeah, you
right.
might have a little bit of an issue
So
there.
I
But
appreciate
I
trees
think
and shade, but
yeah, but I think you make a valid point, and it's interesting. I thought of Arizona for one specific reason. We do know a lot of people, especially folks that maybe started out in some of the Midwest or northern states, move to Arizona as they get older.
right.
But their health challenges can also increase as they age, and things that they that in enjoyable walk following that white ball around this green area can all of a sudden become treacherous to them, and they're still looking for a walk that doesn't
Mhm.
involve that very frustrating little white ball. And they may believe, well, I've made a huge mistake. I now live in a place where I live in a desert with a bunch of hills and mountains, and there's no place for me to go walk. So I can see it areas, not just in Arizona, but in many, many places around the country,
Mhm.
that someone could find a frustration level of where they live now and think there's no place for me to do what I love at this point in my life, or when this challenge has came up. And I think that that's in many cases probably not going to be true. There is some, even in Colorado, there's going to be some flat areas. I know that sounds crazy, right? But there is.
Oh, no, I was just in Colorado a year or so ago, and that's what I wanted to bring up is the concept of rail trails. And they are getting the entire country there was a whole railroad craze and they got way
Yeah.
overbuilt and all the way across the country, of course. And those abandoned rail lines are being transformed into rail trails. that are relatively level. They're firm footing, they're smooth surfaces, they're either paved or crushed stone dust. And bicycles and walkers and people who with strollers and skateboards and rollerblades can all use them. And because trains went all sorts of places, there's some really cool things. I rode on several rail trails that were along the Colorado River in Colorado, and then the Rio Grande Railroad that went along the Roaring Fork Railroad. These are 40 miles of rail trail. I mean, you can just pick and choose. By bike, we have an adaptive tandem bike. My husband does the piloting and I ride on the back because I don't have balance to ride a bike, but we have traveled all the way across the country and ridden our tandem bike in amazing places. And that's because of these rail trails. So even when you think you might not, you just Google rail trail near me and you're going to find things. And
So do
they're
you
going to
have
be
any of
easy
those rail
walks.
trails? Yeah, do you have
In
any rail
rail,
trails on there in your books?
yes,
Cool.
yes.
Very cool. Yeah,
Yes, we
and
have a lot of them. Yeah.
I know that there are that I knew they existed, but I didn't think about it in the concept that you just said. You go to, I don't care where they are. The ground is going to be very much like what you just said. That's just the railroad couldn't have you couldn't have wavy ups and
Exactly.
downs and crazy. Yes, there may be a slope to it. There may be some grade to it at different places, but it had to be a flat surface. It had to be at a an angle that the train could go up
Exactly.
and come down. Don't forget the coming down part was extremely important too, because
Right.
that curve ahead didn't want to be straightened out. You needed to be able to take that curve.
They're all over the country now. It's just amazing. And yes, they by their nature are handicapped accessible. Very, most often they'll have curb cuts, so you can get onto them very easily with your bike. And typically rail lines were built near it through river valleys. They also got washed out because of that, but it means that the scenery is just stunning.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just amazing.
Wow. This is such a cool thing. As a nature lover myself, as someone who loves to be outdoors, it is heartbreaking to think of someone that loses the ability to be able to enjoy that and truly get that joy from being out in nature. Someone who enjoyed that walk, that whatever that looked like, even if they, unfortunately, are not able to walk or be able to motivate themselves that way. Being able to have someone help them down these pathways with whatever type machine that takes.
There are adaptive bicycles that are amazing. The tricycles, the tandem bikes that will come apart and somebody can do the steering and somebody else can do the pedaling, or they're four-wheel tandems. There's a tremendous variety. My husband actually built our bike with a bike builder.
So it's interesting you mention that there's the bike cutouts, or that there's these trails that you can put modified type bikes or whatever.
Mhm.
Does your book address that in any way? Do you talk about any limitations in accessibility or point out places that have, say, increased accessibility, such as these rail walkways? They're going to be a little bit wider. They're going to
Yep.
have a little bit better access than maybe a nice trail that's got a good surface, but can only be maybe two abreast and not. If you were on one of these, no one could get by you. In other words,
I address those in the description, but I also address them with the little icons.
yeah,
So the
yeah,
handicapped accessible, that will be at the very top. The dog or no dog with the slash are right at the top. If there's things like swimming or fishing or other things that people would like to do, they just don't know what's there and what's available. So I try to do those right up front. So, and if it's not completely handicapped accessible, I won't put that little wheelchair
Okay.
icon up there. And I will note, here's what is there, here's what you can do, and here's, even if it means the parking lot has got potholes and stuff, I try to tell people that, because if you're in a wheelchair and you've got a pitted parking lot that's not paved or that's not smoothed or graded, you're not gonna find it accessible. So there's a lot of information.
Well, and there has to be, because can you imagine that situation that everything you saw tells you it's disabled, handicap accessible, and then you get there and the parking lot is only partially paved and there's 5 handicap spaces that are paved with the ramp right there, and they're all taken.
Right,
And
right.
now you've got to park out in the rocks
No,
that you
you go on
cannot.
to you go to plan B.
Right. In this case, then, right, you can't do it. So
Right.
knowing that information, having that, and say, well, you know what? Even if all 5 are there, it's a paved parking lot.
Mhm.
We can park further out if we need to, or we can park, at least we can park somewhere and still be able to enjoy this place. Because I've seen that type of situation. I've seen
Mhm.
places where, yes, you have some paved right here, and the rest of it's all grass, or the rest
Mhm.
it's grass right now, but if it just rained, it's mud, or
Right.
right, whatever. So nice that you have this wonderful handicapped accessible trail that people can't park if they're handicapped and they can't even get on the trail.
It's where snow ends up getting pushed up here. That's the easiest place to put it. So it's,
Oh my gosh.
I know. Or else, no, or else the parking lots don't get plowed. So right now
Yeah.
we've got very little snow, but yes, if there's snow, a lot of times I try to tell people on my Facebook page, here's places that you can park that are plowed. Army Corps of Engineers are great. They always plow their parking lots. You know, you just, but this is where people on the ground can provide really helpful, here's what it's like, or this week it's all muddy, don't go out yet. And that's what people bring to my Facebook page, is on the ground now. Here's what things are this week, or flooded.
Awesome.
Things are flooded. Don't go there now.
And folks, that Facebook page is Easy Walks, comma, Massachusetts, comma, Rhode Island, or RI as it's on there, and beyond. So that is other places as well. But if you go out and look for Easy Walks, I'm sure that it will pop right up there. Over 13,000 members of this Facebook page. So there are a lot of folks out there sharing information, lots of great comments on there. Once again, I thought that was, and it's not always you that has to respond, which is, it saves you some time, right? People are helping each other on there all the
I've got
time.
admins. I've got
Yeah,
admins that
yeah.
help me.
But there's other folks out there. You see members that are helping each other and commenting and saying,
Oh,
"Yeah,
yeah.
well, hold on. I was there last week. It was good, but it's not now." I
Right.
know y'all might not have got rain over in La County, but over in Yaya County, we got poured, and so you don't want to go there
Mhm.
now. It's not
Yeah.
good.
It's a nice feeling seeing that happen, because I
Yeah.
don't have to do it all. I'm not responsible for it all. And it feels like a way of giving back, which, when I've been as needy at times with health stuff, it's nice to feel like I've got something to give, because there was so much time that I felt like I had nothing to give at all.
Well, and that's what this is all about, right? That's, I
Mhm.
think you say it very well on your website that the books are focused on helping others get outside, find healing for their body, mind, and spirit. That's that's beautiful. That's beautiful, because that that's it, right? That's the holistic piece. If
Mhm.
if you've got the healing you're looking for, maybe you'll never get that physical healing
Right.
There's situations where you're never going to get that physical healing that'll put you maybe back where you were. Maybe you never were, but maybe you're never going to get to that point again. But that doesn't mean there's still not some healing for your body and for your mind and
Mhm.
for your spirit.
It's very different kinds of healing. And
Yes.
people that say, the miracle healings or the spiritual healings, um, the services that sometimes people still have, it to me is always implied you could get back to where you are. And that's honestly not true or not possible for lots of things, but there are different ways of experiencing healing. And I have been the beneficiary of a lot of that.
Yeah. And, I think that there are times, I have seen it myself, where someone can go through an experience and maybe they never get back fully to their healing of their body where it was, but the strength that it can give them in dealing with that, the change in mindset, the change in their spirit and their soul
Mhm.
can be a positive thing. And I think we've seen inspiration of that. You're an inspiration of that because you could have let that just be the end. I mean, you could have had this happen and been, dealt with your paralysis and said, "Well, I'll never get to enjoy this again. This is off the list, right? This is I
Mhm.
can do some other stuff, but maybe my favorite thing from now on will just be to sit around and watch my shows."
My kids kept me going. My
Well,
kids
that's a
really,
beautiful thing.
at the hardest parts, they'd say, well, let's take mom out for a walk. But yeah, they kept me going. And I was a contra dancer. I don't know if that's anything your listeners are familiar with, but I had been dancing, and about 6 months after, I went back to it. And contra dancing has a lot of upper body. It's not country dancing, but it's kind of like square dancing. And so
Okay.
you've got partners and you get a lot of upper body support. And I got back to it, but that was with a whole lot of support. It's actually where I met my second husband. We've been married 18 years, pretty close now.
Awesome.
So very, very lucky. But yes, I met him dancing.
Awesome. That is great. That is great. Well, if someone wants to get their hands on one of these books, how will they do that?
MarjorieTurner.com is a great place to start. They're all on Amazon.
Okay.
You can type in my name. You can type in Easy Walks in Massachusetts. You can just type in my name, author. There's an author page on Amazon, but my website has all the links. So thank you.
Eh,
Thank you so much for asking and offering that.
Yeah, absolutely. And your website, marjorieturner.com, lots more information. You can also follow your blog and
Mhm.
you're giving updates on that. You've got a pretty good uh, listing
There's
of
about
blogs.
five, there's about 500 plus.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
lot.
A lot of blogs out there, a lot of great information, access to the books, including not just Easy Walk, but also that memoir of learning piece with your changed
My
life.
liturgy, yeah, my liturgy of Easy Walks.
Right. So there's a lot of information there, including a little bit of access to some of the reviews on that. Lots and lots of workshops that you have on there. So in these workshops, talk about a little bit of the things that you're helping others outside of this as well, because I think that's
Mhm.
important as well. You're focused on these things that are helping people access the outdoors through these easy walks, but you're also doing other things to help folks.
Right, thank you. The workshops typically are designed to help other people start telling their stories. I've worked for about 10 years helping record family stories and get them turned into books. It's how I knew how to do these other books. So sometimes the workshops are on interviewing skills. I've done that with National Park Service. And sometimes they're just group breaking people up into pairs and having them practice telling simple stories and then come back and sharing them. Basically, it's opening people's eyes, opening your eyes that you have a story to tell, or you have lots of stories to tell that are worth sharing. And there's many different ways to do that. I've worked with teachers. I did a lot of work in years past as a storyteller, performer, helping teachers with what do you do in the classroom to get your kids telling stories. So there's a bunch of different things. Do self-publishing workshops. A lot of people are wanting to know how can they publish books themselves. So that's some of them. I also edit for people at this point now. I've learned enough about writing, so I do what are called manuscript evaluations. People that want to write their own books, but they know they need some help. So
Gotcha.
that's being really fun.
Yeah. I think that all of those things are so important because if you wouldn't have taken the time to write your story and really think about how you could help others down the pathway. Yes, I went there, folks. I said it, went down the pathway. If you wouldn't have told us about your not so easy walk, we would not know about the easy walks now because that you had to go through it to see the benefit that others could have. So that's
Mhm.
very admirable. I really appreciate what you've done to honestly help yourself to help others as well,
Mhm.
because it's an important part of the journey, and you finding your joy has helped spread that so others could find theirs as well. So I definitely commend you for that.
Thank you. Healing is not something that happens in a straight line, and it can be one step forward and two steps back. What I experienced, especially with neurological healing, is that just trying harder doesn't work. It's the no pain, no gain is a it's not, it's a lie. It might be helpful for some people, but when you're recovering from neurological stuff or other stuff, when there's pain, that means you need to stop because your body's warning you that you're going to injure yourself. But to just, like you said, sit in your chair and watch TV and say that's as good as it's going to get, maybe it is. But if you can get up and you can move as much as you're able, you will be in a position, if healing comes, and I have experienced that there can be instantaneous instances of suddenly you're aware that something's changed. It's very weird. It's really weird, but it happens. And I can still picture those moments. And if I had just been sitting in the chair and never moved, I wouldn't realize that it had happened, and I may have missed it.
Wow. That's very insightful. That is very, very insightful because that's what we're told, right? It's this it's you've got to have this struggle, you've got to have this pain to ever, you've got to get through these things. That's just part of the journey. And I think that's also why some people just don't try. They just get to that point and they're just like, well, if I'm going to have to do all that, then no. It's not that they always want easy. It's just sometimes the pain is just too much to bear.
Mhm. Right. And I understand that too.
And that's why the journey is different for everyone.
Mhm.
That's why the
Yep.
healing, as you said, is different for everyone. It's not a straight line. There's ups and downs. There's good days and bad days. There's days you want to quit, and then days where you wake up and you say, "There's no way I'll ever quit,"
Mhm.
and that's
That's
just part of
very
the journey.
true. That's very true. It makes it a little crazy making though, because when you just don't feel like you can do anything, you feel like it's always going to be that way. And then other times when you just say, I have all this energy, and you say, that's how I'm always going to feel. But that's not true either.
Yeah,
It just
it
keeps
is.
changing.
Yeah, I mean that's our human nature, right? It's like even the most optimistic person in the world is not always the most optimistic person in the world. They're just not. They always have negative thoughts and always have that moment of doubt.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
they may never tell you that, but when they're sitting there by themselves and things are not going the way that they want them to, then everyone has doubt.
Yep.
And that's just a fact of being human.
Yep. It's true.
Well, I really appreciate you taking time to be with us. This was very exciting, very insightful, and I'm I'm ready to go find a trail to send you. Uh,
Then tell us about it. But you better tell us what the trail surface is like and give us a picture of what's there.
Maybe I'll just record the whole thing. I'll just record a video of the whole thing. And like
Mhm.
every rock, I'm like, watch out. 47 and a half steps in there. There's this rock. Never mind. I'm going to move it. There's no longer this rock. Okay.
We do have people who do things that bring videos. It's fun. They may speed it up, but then you got to hold on. But
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. My wife's not watching that one, by the way. She'll get motion sickness just watching those things where people are going really fast. She's like, no,
me
no.
too.
Well, that's good stuff. All right, folks, you can go out to marjorieturner.com. You can go to the Facebook page for Easy Walks, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and beyond. Marjorie said she also got a LinkedIn page, but she didn't seem a whole super excited about that. So you might want to go out there. But if you really want to connect with her, the Facebook page and the website are the place to do it. You can join right there, right? Someone can join that Facebook group
Mhm.
and just kind of hang out for a while and see what it's all about if you don't want to put stuff right in. But it doesn't matter where you are. If they're because remember what the Facebook page says, Easy Walks, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and beyond. So if you're not in Rhode Island or Massachusetts and you're in Texas like me, that counts as beyond. How
It's
about
true.
that?
It's true. Yeah, we've got stuff from Canada. We've traveled to Canada and down to Tennessee to my grandchildren and out to Colorado and Utah and New Mexico. Yes, lots of
Awesome.
places.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for being with us today. You are an inspiration. Keep on, keeping on, keep putting those easy walks out there, changing people's lives and bringing them joy by bringing nature back as a possibility into their life. Um, hey, do you remember what that app was? I really want people to know one more
Oh,
time. What's the
sure.
bird app?
It's just called Merlin, Merlin. It's Cornell School of Ornithology, and it's a free app that you can download, and it turns your phone into a recorder to hear that recognizes bird calls. It's
That's
very cool.
awesome.
Merlin.
There's your bonus today on the Health and Wealth Power Hour. The bird app that can tell you what's around you, who's singing to you, who's singing to you. All right, folks, thank you so much for being with us today. Don't forget, if you want to subscribe to the Health and Wealth Power Hour, you can go out to hwpowerhour.com. Of course, you can listen to us anytime on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you digest your podcast. We will keep on talking to folks, bringing you more and more insight in all kind of things, health and wealth. We do appreciate you. Don't forget to also listen to our industry show that we do every last Tuesday of the month called Why Does Healthcare Suck? That's right. The Why Does Healthcare Suck series is still going strong. We are diving into every aspect of what's going on. We got some excellent ideas from some folks over at the U-Powered Symposium in Puerto Rico here in the last couple of weeks. So the next year is going to be a doozy for information in that industry. We'll keep on bringing you information there, and we have some more exciting things we're going to roll out to help you better understand what's going on and help you take action to help yourself and your family. Appreciate you being with us, and we'll catch you next time. We are out.